In the cold and endless lands of the Russian Empire, power was often claimed through blood, fear, and destiny. Yet, in the 18th century, a foreign woman, not born Russian, not born royal, would rise to command one of the greatest empires in history. Her name was Catherine the Great. Her story is one of ambition, intellect, seduction, and iron will. It is a story of how a single woman transformed a crumbling monarchy into a European powerhouse. Catherine the Great began life far from the glittering palaces of St. Petersburg. She was born in 1729 in a small German principality called Anhalt-Zerbst. Her birth name was Sophie Friederike Augusta, an intelligent, curious girl raised in a modest home by strict but loving parents. Her mother, Princess Johanna, dreamed of marrying her daughter into power. And when the Russian Empress Elizabeth, daughter of Peter the Great, sought a bride for her nephew and heir, Grand Duke Peter, Johanna saw her chance. Sophie, only 14, was sent to Russia, a land of ice and mystery, to meet her future husband. She spoke no Russian, knew nothing of Orthodox faith, and had never seen a court so vast and dangerous. But she learned quickly. Within months, Sophie converted to Orthodox Christianity, taking the name Ekaterina Alexeyevna, Catherine. She studied the language, the customs, the politics, and while her fiancé Peter played with toy soldiers and idolized Prussia's King Frederick, Catherine studied philosophy and strategy. Even as a teenager, she understood something crucial. In Russia, survival meant outthinking everyone else. Catherine's marriage to Peter was miserable from the beginning. Peter, immature and unstable, humiliated his wife in public and ignored her in private. He was fascinated with Prussian discipline and military life, while Catherine sought knowledge, art, and affection. Lonely and desperate, she threw herself into books, history, politics, and the writings of Enlightenment thinkers. Voltaire became her secret hero, Montesquieu her silent guide. She dreamed not of romance, but of reform, of becoming something far greater than the wife of a fool. The Russian court, meanwhile, was a nest of intrigue. Empress Elizabeth adored luxury and ceremony, but she ruled with absolute power. Catherine learned to smile, to listen, and to hide her true thoughts. Over time, she built quiet alliances with generals, courtiers, and noble families. She was learning the art of empire. In 1761, Empress Elizabeth died. Her nephew Peter became Emperor Peter III, and Russia trembled. He immediately withdrew from the 7 Years' War, angering the army. He admired Frederick of Prussia more than his own people. He insulted the church, mocked Russian traditions, and even planned to send Catherine to a convent. But Catherine had been preparing. In June 1762, she struck. With the help of loyal guards and key military officers, especially the Orlov brothers, Catherine led a coup d'etat. In a single night, she was declared Empress of Russia. Peter fled, only to be captured and later found dead. The official cause: hemorrhoidal colic. The truth? Still debated by historians. But one thing was clear: Catherine had won. She had overthrown her husband, seized the throne, and claimed the right to rule, not as a queen consort, but as an autocrat in her own name. Once in power, Catherine styled herself as the heir of Peter the Great, determined to complete his vision of a modern, westernized Russia. She surrounded herself with intellectuals, scientists, and architects. She read the works of Voltaire, Diderot, and Rousseau, exchanging letters with them for years. Catherine believed in reason, education, and progress, the ideals of the Enlightenment. She founded the Smolny Institute, Russia's first state school for girls, and reformed the Senate and provincial administration. Her greatest ambition was a new law code, a nakaz, inspired by Enlightenment philosophy. It spoke of equality before the law and condemned torture. But her dream met the hard limits of Russian reality. The nobility resisted, fearing their power would weaken. Serfdom, the system that bound peasants to their landlords, remained untouched. Catherine wanted freedom, but she ruled a nation that survived on obedience. Catherine's reign was not only intellectual, it was imperial. Through wars and diplomacy, she expanded Russia's territory on a scale unmatched since Peter the Great. Her armies defeated the Ottoman Empire, securing access to the Black Sea and annexing Crimea in 1783. To the west, she participated in the partitions of Poland, absorbing vast lands into Russian control. Under Catherine, Russia became the largest and most powerful state in Europe, stretching from the Baltic to the Black Sea, from Poland to Siberia. She built magnificent cities, including the dazzling palaces of St. Petersburg. She filled them with art, sculpture, and literature, much of which she collected herself. Catherine saw herself as both a conqueror and a civilizer, bringing order to the chaos of the frontier. Yet, behind the glitter of the empire, discontent simmered. In 1773, a man named Emelian Pugachev, a Cossack soldier, claimed to be the rightful Tsar Peter III returned from the dead. He promised freedom to the serfs and equality for all. His rebellion swept across southern Russia, attracting thousands of peasants, Cossacks, and fugitives. For months, Catherine's armies struggled to crush the uprising. Villages burned, cities fell, and the empire trembled. When Pugachev was finally captured and executed, Catherine realized the truth. Reform was dangerous. From that moment, she grew more cautious, more autocratic. The dream of enlightenment gave way to the demands of control. Catherine's personal life fascinated her contemporaries and scandalized Europe. She took lovers openly, often elevating them to powerful positions. Among them were Grigory Orlov, her partner during the coup, and later Grigory Potemkin, her most trusted companion, and perhaps the love of her life. Potemkin shared her vision of empire. Together, they ruled like dual sovereigns. He commanding the army, she the state. Their letters, filled with affection and strategy, reveal a relationship built on both passion and intellect. Far from being a victim of gossip, Catherine wielded her reputation as a weapon, charming, manipulative, and impossible to ignore. Catherine ruled Russia for 34 years, one of the longest reigns in Russian history. Under her leadership, the empire became a great European power. Art, architecture, education, and culture flourished. But she also left contradictions. a ruler who preached freedom but preserved serfdom, a woman of reason who used power without mercy. When she died in 1796, Russia was stronger than ever, yet burdened by the same inequalities that would one day ignite revolution. Still, her name endured. Catherine the Great remains one of history's most formidable women, a monarch, a philosopher, a visionary, and a survivor. She turned ambition into destiny, and destiny into empire. From the icy halls of St. Petersburg to the pages of Enlightenment philosophy, Catherine's life was a mirror of her age. Brilliant, ruthless, and unforgettable. She once wrote, "A great wind is blowing, and that gives you either imagination or a headache." Catherine had both, imagination enough to dream, and the strength to bear the pain of ruling an empire. Her reign ended more than 2 centuries ago, yet her legacy still whispers through the corridors of Russian history. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story of power, passion, and transformation, remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more journeys through history's greatest lives. In the early 20th century, a small, quiet town in Southern California would grow into the heart of a global cultural revolution. Hollywood, now a symbol of glamour, fame, and cinematic magic, started with humble beginnings. How did this sun-drenched suburb become the movie capital of the world? Cinema was a novelty at the turn of the century. In New Jersey, Thomas Edison and other inventors controlled production and distribution, making filmmaking restrictive. Many filmmakers sought freedom and a fresh start, far from Edison's patents. They found it in Southern California. Endless sunshine, diverse landscapes, and cheap land perfect for filming all year long. Pioneers like D.W. Griffith, Mary Pickford, and Charlie Chaplin were among the first to arrive, carrying cameras, actors, and dreams. Nestor Studios, founded in 1911, marked Hollywood's first steps into organized filmmaking. Soon, Universal, Paramount, and Warner Brothers established themselves, shaping the future of cinema. The studio system emerged, controlling casting, production, and distribution. It was a time of experimentation. Directors tested storytelling techniques, lighting, and camera angles, creating the foundation for modern filmmaking. Hollywood began attracting talent from across the country, forming the first generation of movie stars. The 1920s transformed Hollywood. Stars like Rudolph Valentino, Gloria Swanson, and Clara Bow captivated audiences, while directors like Cecil B. DeMille crafted cinematic spectacles. The arrival of sound in 1927 with The Jazz Singer ended the silent era and launched the age of talkies. Studios quickly adapted, building sound stages and investing in new technology to maintain Hollywood's cutting-edge status. By the 1930s, Hollywood was a powerful empire. The studio system dominated filmmaking, with actors, directors, and writers under long-term contracts. Genres like musicals, gangster films, and comedies reflected society's hopes, fears, and dreams. Studios controlled production, distribution, and exhibition, spreading American culture globally and shaping the imagination of audiences everywhere. Hollywood's magic lies in its people. Stars of the Golden Age became cultural icons, their lives both on and off screen captivating audiences. Directors like Orson Welles, Alfred Hitchcock, and John Ford pioneered storytelling techniques that still influence filmmakers today. Hollywood became a creative laboratory where ambition met artistry. Hollywood's journey wasn't without obstacles. Labor disputes, censorship, and scandals tested the industry. The Hays Code of the 1930s regulated film content, limiting creativity but inspiring subtle storytelling. Global events like the Great Depression and World War II further shaped Hollywood, turning films into both entertainment and cultural influence. From a quiet agricultural town to a global cultural powerhouse, Hollywood continues to evolve. Modern filmmaking blends tradition and technology, from CGI spectacles to streaming platforms. Yet at its core, Hollywood remains a place for stories that captivate, inspire, and entertain. The vision, risk, and creativity of its pioneers continue to echo in every frame and every star. Hollywood is more than a place. It is an idea, a dream, and a symbol of possibility. Its story is far from over, and the next chapter is being written every day. If you enjoyed this journey through history and the magic of cinema, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and join us for more fascinating stories from the world of film and culture. Rising majestically above the Parisian skyline, the Eiffel Tower is more than just a tourist attraction. It is a symbol of human ingenuity, ambition, and the relentless pursuit of innovation. But behind its elegant iron lattice lies a story of vision, engineering challenges, controversy, and triumph. Today, we delve deep into the fascinating journey of how the Eiffel Tower came to life, piece by piece, rivet by rivet. In the late 19th century, Paris was preparing for the 1889 Exposition Universelle, a World's Fair celebrating 100 years since the French Revolution. The organizers wanted a centerpiece that would embody France's technological prowess. Gustave Eiffel, a brilliant engineer with a passion for daring projects, proposed a tower unlike anything the world had seen. His vision, a 300-meter-tall iron structure, elegantly composed of thousands of interconnected metal pieces, designed to withstand wind and weather while reaching unprecedented heights. Eiffel was not alone in this endeavor. Architects Maurice Koechlin and Émile Nouguier initially drafted the designs, envisioning a skeletal tower of iron beams. Later, architect Stephen Sauvestre refined it with decorative arches, a glass pavilion at the top, and a touch of Parisian elegance. The tower, they hoped, would become a modern monument, representing industrial progress and the spirit of innovation. Building the Eiffel Tower was a colossal engineering challenge. At the time, no one had attempted such a tall iron structure. Calculations had to account for the wind pressure, weight distribution, and thermal expansion of metal. Over 18,000 individual iron components were meticulously prefabricated in factories, each numbered for precise assembly. Riveting was the method of construction. 2.5 million rivets would hold the structure together. Workers, often suspended hundreds of meters above the ground, faced extreme conditions. Safety measures included guardrails, harnesses, and temporary wooden scaffolds. Despite the danger, fewer than a handful of serious injuries were reported, a remarkable achievement for for that era. Construction began in January 1887. First, massive foundations were laid to anchor the tower firmly in the Champ de Mars soil. The 4 massive legs were erected one by one, gradually converging as the structure rose. Ingenious cranes and hydraulic jacks were used to lift heavy iron sections into place, a marvel of 19th century mechanical engineering. As the tower climbed higher, it attracted public attention and scrutiny. Each rivet, each beam, was a testament to meticulous planning and precision. Engineers continually adjusted calculations to ensure stability. By 1888, the tower had already surpassed 200 meters, dwarfing nearby buildings and altering the Parisian skyline forever. Not everyone welcomed the Eiffel Tower. Many artists, intellectuals, and Parisians criticized it, calling it an eyesore that disfigured the city. A famous protest, Artists Against the Tower, denounced its design as monstrous. Yet Gustave Eiffel defended his creation passionately, emphasizing its structural beauty, scientific innovation, and the inspiration it would bring to future generations. Despite the controversy, the tower continued to rise, slowly silencing critics as its grandeur became impossible to ignore. By the time construction ended, the Eiffel Tower had become a symbol of modernity, blending engineering mastery with aesthetic ambition. After 2 years, 2 months, and 5 days of painstaking work, the Eiffel Tower was completed in March 1889. Gustave Eiffel himself ascended to the top, unveiling panoramic views of Paris that amazed visitors. The tower became the centerpiece of the Exposition Universelle, attracting millions and cementing its place in history as the tallest man-made structure of its time. The Eiffel Tower was not just an architectural feat. It was a demonstration of France's industrial capability and a bold statement that technology and art could coexist harmoniously. Over the years, the Eiffel Tower has inspired countless engineers, architects, and designers. It has been a site of scientific experiments, a military observation post, and a symbol of romance and culture. Its iron framework, once criticized, is now celebrated as a masterpiece of structural engineering. Every beam, every rivet tells a story of ambition, creativity, and human determination. From its controversial beginnings to its enduring status as a global icon, the Eiffel Tower reminds us that vision, courage, and persistence can transform an idea into something timeless. The Eiffel Tower stands as a monument not only to Paris, but to the boundless potential of human ingenuity. It challenges us to imagine, to dream, and to reach heights once thought impossible. Rising above the Seine and gazing across the city of light, the tower whispers a timeless message: that great achievements are born from bold ideas, meticulous planning, and the courage to defy expectations. If you enjoyed this journey through history and innovation, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an exploration of the world's greatest landmarks. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you like us to uncover next? In the heart of the 16th century, the Ottoman Empire stands as one of the greatest powers in the world, vast, rich, and formidable. Behind its walls of gold and marble, in the Topkapi Palace, women live in shadow and secrecy. Among them is a girl born far from these lands, in the cold steppes of Ruthenia. Her name is Alexandra. Little does the world know that she will become Hürrem Sultan, the most influential woman in the Ottoman Empire, a master of strategy, love, and power. This is the story of how a captured girl rose to become a queen, shaping history through intellect, ambition, and courage. Hürrem Sultan begins life in obscurity, far from the grandeur of Istanbul. As a young girl, she is taken from her homeland and brought to the imperial harem. Stripped of her family and familiar world, Alexandra quickly adapts, learning language, customs, and the delicate social hierarchy of the palace. Survival is not enough. She observes, calculates, and dreams of influence beyond her station. The harem is a place of beauty, luxury, and danger. Hundreds of women compete for attention and influence, each whisper and glance a potential threat or advantage. Alexandra learns the art of persuasion, the subtlety of alliances, and the rhythm of court politics. In the shadows, she begins to exert influence quietly, a skill that will define her rise. Alexandra's intelligence and charm capture the attention of Sultan Suleiman. She becomes his favorite, gaining not just affection, but trust. She advises privately on political and domestic matters, shaping decisions unnoticed by others. Rivals grow jealous, and whispers of intrigue echo through the palace. Yet Alexandra navigates the dangers with skill, patience, and strategy. The concubine transforms into Hürrem Sultan, a name that history will remember. Defying centuries of Ottoman tradition, Suleiman marries Hürrem Sultan. This unprecedented act shocks the empire. Hürrem's influence extends to diplomacy and state affairs through correspondence, negotiations, and strategic guidance. Rivalries within the harem intensify, yet Hürrem consolidates her power, remaining both respected and feared. Hürrem bears several children, securing her family's future. The palace becomes a battlefield of alliances, intrigue, and careful calculation. She protects her sons, positions them for succession, and ensures her family's prominence. Through motherhood, she wields power as much as through diplomacy, shaping the empire's future. Beyond the palace, Hürrem Sultan shapes the empire's culture. She commissions mosques, schools, hospitals, and fountains across Istanbul and beyond. Her projects are not mere displays of wealth. They are symbols of vision, devotion, and enduring influence. Hürrem demonstrates that a ruler's legacy is built not only on politics, but on the welfare of the people. Envy and ambition surround Hürrem. Concubines, princes, and advisors constantly challenge her authority. She counters threats with intelligence, patience, and strategy, navigating the palace's intricate web of intrigue. Hürrem's skill in court politics demonstrates that power is earned not only through status, but through wisdom and foresight. The bond between Hürrem and Suleiman is extraordinary. Love intertwines with diplomacy and politics. Hürrem's letters reveal affection, insight, and strategic foresight, blending heart and mind. Together, they shape wars, alliances, and court policies, forging an empire where Hürrem's guidance is indispensable. In her later years, Hürrem's influence remains strong. She watches her children grow and secure positions of power, confident in the empire's future. Even as illness approaches, she continues to advise and oversee charitable works. Her life proves that enduring power comes from intelligence, foresight, and resilience. Hürrem Sultan dies in 1558, leaving behind a legacy of power, love, and intellect. Suleiman mourns her deeply. Her children rise to prominence. The empire she shaped endures, a testament to her vision and strength. Hürrem Sultan's life proves that one woman, armed with intelligence, courage, and determination, can alter the course of history. From Alexandra, the captured girl, to Hürrem Sultan, the queen and strategist, her story is one of resilience, vision, and enduring influence. She changed history not with armies, but with intellect, patience, and courage. Centuries later, Hürrem Sultan remains immortal in memory, a symbol of power, wisdom, and the enduring strength of women in history. She was more than a sultan's wife. She was a force of history, unforgettable, unyielding, eternal. If you enjoyed this journey into the life of Hürrem Sultan, make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell to explore more fascinating stories from history. In the glittering world of 19th century Europe, one woman captured the hearts and imaginations of millions. Her face was immortalized in portraits, her name whispered in awe. Elizabeth of Bavaria, known forever as Sissy. But behind the crown lay a restless spirit, a woman longing for freedom, haunted by sorrow and consumed by legend. This is not merely the story of an empress. It is the story of a human being who fought for her own identity inside a golden cage. This is the story of Sissy. Elizabeth Amalie. Eugenie was born on December 24, 1837, in Munich, the fourth child of Duke Maximilian Joseph in Bavaria and Princess Ludovica of Bavaria. Unlike many royal children, Sissy was not raised in stiff courtly etiquette. Her family preferred the countryside of Possenhofen Castle on the shores of Lake Starnberg. Here, Elizabeth learned to love nature, horses, and freedom. Her father, eccentric and fun-loving, encouraged his children to ride, hike, and explore. Her mother worried more about marriages and alliances, but Elizabeth's heart belonged to the woods, the lakes, and the mountains. She was shy, poetic, and sensitive, qualities that would clash with the rigid expectations of an imperial court. Her elder sister Helene was considered the ideal bride for a royal match. No one expected the dreamy Elizabeth to become an empress. In the summer of 1853, a fateful meeting changed everything. Emperor Franz Joseph of Austria was supposed to meet Helene, Elizabeth's older sister, as a potential bride. But when the 23-year-old emperor saw the 15-year-old Elizabeth, he was immediately captivated. Her natural beauty, her innocence, and her free-spirited charm enchanted him. Against his mother's wishes, Franz Joseph chose Elizabeth instead of Helene. The engagement shocked both families. Elizabeth, unprepared for such a destiny, suddenly found herself at the center of Europe's most powerful empire. On April 24, 1854, at just 16 years old, Elizabeth married Emperor Franz Joseph in Vienna. The wedding was a spectacle of grandeur, but for Sissy, it marked the end of her freedom. She entered the Hofburg Palace as Empress of Austria, a title she never truly embraced. The Hofburg was not a home, but a labyrinth of etiquette and control. The young empress was under the watchful eye of Archduchess Sophie, Franz Joseph's domineering mother, who controlled the court and even Sissy's own children. Elizabeth felt isolated and powerless. Her role was ceremonial, her opinions ignored. She suffered from homesickness and anxiety, longing for the carefree days of Bavaria. Despite her unhappiness, she performed her duties, attending balls, ceremonies, and religious events. Her beauty and elegance made her a sensation across Europe, but behind the public image, she grew increasingly fragile. Elizabeth's beauty became both her armor and her prison. She maintained an intense routine, hours of exercise, strict diets, and elaborate hair care. Her floor-length brown hair took 3 hours to style. She often fasted, weighed herself daily, and wore tightly laced corsets to maintain her 50-centimeter waist. She also turned to poetry as an escape, writing verses about death, freedom, and the sea. She traveled constantly, searching for relief from court life, visiting health spas, and spending months away from Vienna. Her marriage to Franz Joseph grew distant. The emperor adored her, but his infidelities and Sissy's absences created a gulf between them. She became a wanderer, an empress without a home. While Elizabeth shunned most political affairs, she developed a deep bond with Hungary. She admired its culture, learned its language, and forged friendships with Hungarian nobles. During the crisis of the Austro-Hungarian Compromise, she played a crucial role in reconciling her husband with the Hungarian people. In 1867, Franz Joseph and Elizabeth were crowned King and Queen of Hungary in a grand ceremony in Budapest. This was one of her happiest moments. The Hungarians adored Sissy, calling her their queen. In Hungary, she found the freedom and affection denied to her in Vienna. While traveling in Hungary, she faced her first devastating loss. Her eldest daughter, Sophie, passed away at a young age. The death of her child left Elizabeth heartbroken, a grief she carried deeply in her soul. Her only son, Crown Prince Rudolph, grew up neglected and unhappy. In 1889, he died in the infamous Meierling incident, a murder-suicide pact with his mistress, Baroness Mary Wetzera. These losses devastated Elizabeth. She dressed in black for the rest of her life, rarely appearing in public. Her depression deepened, and she withdrew further from court, traveling ceaselessly from country to country, from Corfu to Ireland, from Switzerland to the Mediterranean. She avoided photographers and began veiling her face, no longer wanting to be seen as the beauty she once was. Her poetry became darker, obsessed with death and escape. On September 10, 1898, in Geneva, Switzerland, Sissy's restless journey came to a sudden end. While walking along the lake, she was approached by an Italian anarchist, Luigi Lucchini, who stabbed her with a sharpened file. At first, she did not realize she had been mortally wounded. She boarded a steamer, then collapsed. An hour later, the Empress of Austria was dead at the age of 60. Europe was shocked. The woman who had spent her life running from the constraints of power had been struck down by a random act of violence. But death transformed Elizabeth into legend. Her portraits, the long-haired beauty in diamond stars, became symbols of a lost era. Films, books, and operettas romanticized her life, turning her into the fairy tale Sissy known today. Yet the real Elizabeth was far more complex. A free-spirited soul, a restless traveler, a poet, and a tragic figure who struggled against the golden cage of empire. She was a daughter of Bavaria, a bride of Austria, a queen of Hungary, and a wanderer of the world. She sought freedom and found sorrow. She sought love and found distance. And yet, more than a century after her death, her story still fascinates us. For behind the diamonds and the silk, we recognize a human soul, longing, restless, and free. This was Elizabeth of Bavaria. This was Sissi, the tragic empress. If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories of the extraordinary lives that shaped our world. Hit the bell to never miss an episode. In the mid-14th century, a silent killer swept across Europe. Known as the Black Death, this plague claimed tens of millions of lives and left scars that endured for centuries. Few events in history rival its destructive power. The Black Death was not only a biological catastrophe, it was a turning point in medicine, society, and culture. The story begins in Asia, likely in the steppes of Mongolia. The bacterium Yersinia pestis, carried by fleas on black rats, became an unseen passenger across continents. With the Mongol Empire's expansion and the bustling trade of the Silk Road, the disease traveled westward. When Mongol armies besieged the Crimean port of Kaffa in 1346, chroniclers wrote that they catapulted infected corpses over the city walls. From there, merchants fleeing the siege carried the plague aboard ships into the Mediterranean. One chronicler noted, "And as the dead bodies were thrown over the walls, all who came in contact with them fell sick, and the people of the city died in great numbers." In 1347, the plague reached Sicily. Sailors in Messina fell ill with blackened swellings, fever, and vomiting. Panic spread as entire households were wiped out overnight. By 1348, Italy, France, England, and the German states were already under siege by the plague. Giovanni Boccaccio in the Decameron described Florence's devastation. And in a single day, the plague carried off so many people that it was impossible to bury them, and carts were used to carry away the bodies to mass graves outside the city walls. In Marseille, a chronicler observed, "Fathers abandoned sons, wives abandoned husbands, one brother abandoned another. None could be found to bury the dead for money or friendship. No town, no village, no class was spared. The rich fled to their villas, leaving the poor behind, while priests and doctors often died alongside their communities." The plague struck with terrifying speed. Victims developed buboes, painful swellings in the armpits and groin, which turned black as infection spread. Fevers, vomiting, and delirium followed, and many died within 3 days. Medieval minds struggled to explain this horror. Some believed it was divine punishment, others blamed the alignment of planets, and yet others thought foul air or poisoned wells were responsible. The chronicler Jean de Venette wrote, "Men fell dead in the streets, and the living were so terror-stricken that they abandoned their homes, leaving the sick and dying without care. Flagellant groups marched from town to town, whipping themselves in processions to atone for humanity's sins. Fear also fueled violence. In Strasbourg and Mainz, Jews were accused of poisoning wells and were burned alive in their thousands. Each nation attempted to confront the plague in its own way. Italy. Entire families isolated themselves. Boccaccio wrote, "Those who could escape the city walls did so, and those who remained shut themselves in, hoping to avoid death, but many died within their own homes." France. King Philip VI ordered public prayers and processions. Chroniclers noted that even the clergy, targeted by the plague, could offer little help. Bishops and priests fell in enormous numbers, leaving churches silent. England. Quarantine laws were introduced. Arriving ships had to wait, sometimes for weeks, before disembarking. London opened vast plague pits, mass graves into which thousands were lowered each week. Germany. In some regions, Jews were blamed for poisoning wells, leading to pogroms. Yet some cities, recognizing the injustice, issued charters to protect Jewish communities. Ottoman Empire. In the Ottoman Empire, the plague reached Anatolia during the early years of the rising state. Cities and towns tried to respond through religious and charitable institutions, like vakuf hospitals, which provided care for the sick. But an unexpected factor helped limit the spread. Street cats. Unlike many European cities where cats were feared or associated with superstition and often killed, the streets of Ottoman towns teemed with these agile hunters. They preyed on rats, the main carriers of plague-carrying fleas, quietly helping to control the rodent population. Chroniclers noted that this natural presence of cats contributed to slowing the plague's devastation in Ottoman territories. The Black Death reshaped Europe. With so many dead, labor shortages gave peasants unprecedented power. Wages rose, and feudal obligations weakened. King Edward III of England complained. Laborers refuse to work for the usual wages, and the laws we enact to compel them are ineffectual. In Florence, merchants lamented the collapse of trade. In Paris, universities fell silent. In the countryside, abandoned fields reverted to wilderness. In many places, whole villages disappeared, leaving only ruins behind. Towns emptied, farmlands went untended, and entire communities vanished. Yet society gradually adapted. Economies shifted, hierarchies broke down, and survivors began to rebuild in a transformed world. The plague left its mark in art and literature. Images of skeletons, danse macabre, and grim allegories of death filled churches and manuscripts. Paintings and murals depicted peasants and kings alike dancing with skeletons, symbolizing the equality of death. Petrarch, observing the impact in Italy, wrote, "I turned my eyes to the sorrowful streets, and I saw the devastation. Families extinguished, cities silent, death triumphant over life." Yet from devastation came change. The shattering of old systems and beliefs opened the way for innovation. Physicians began recording observations more carefully, challenging old theories. Universities, once bound by tradition, slowly shifted toward inquiry and experiment. The Black Death, while tragic, prepared Europe for the Renaissance. The plague did not vanish after 1350. Outbreaks returned in waves. In London in 1665, in Vienna in 1679, and in Marseille in 1720. Each wave claimed new victims, though none matched the horror of the first. Yet each recurrence brought new lessons: stricter quarantines, the establishment of health boards, and early attempts at epidemiology. The idea of contagion slowly gained acceptance, paving the way for the birth of modern medicine. In England, the memory of the plague shaped labor law and social structure. In Italy, it changed urban planning, with cities widening streets and opening squares to improve air circulation. In the Ottoman Empire, Vakuf foundations continued to provide aid, embedding charitable healthcare into urban life. The Black Death was more than a plague. It was a force that shook the foundations of society, changed the relationship between rulers and the ruled, and carved deep marks in human memory. As Jean de Venette reflected, "Truly, never has the world seen such misery and terror, yet life endures, and we continue despite all." The Black Death claimed millions, but it also transformed the world, proving that even in darkness, humanity can adapt, survive, and build anew. History is written in both suffering and resilience. The Black Death reminds us how fragile human life can be, and how history continues to shape the present. If you found this story fascinating, don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more journeys into the past. Until next time, stay curious. There was a man whose life was as mysterious as it was infamous. Born into obscurity, he would rise to influence the most powerful family in Russia and, through his presence alone, shape the course of history. Grigory Rasputin's story is one of mysticism, power, and controversy. His influence was extraordinary, yet the true nature of his power remained unclear. Was it divine, psychological, or merely the result of cunning manipulation? This question would follow him throughout his life, casting a shadow over the Russian Empire itself. Rasputin was born in 1869 in the remote village of Pokrovskaya, Siberia. The son of a peasant family, his early life was marked by poverty and hardship. From a young age, he exhibited unusual spiritual tendencies, often entering states of religious ecstasy that both fascinated and frightened his neighbors. Despite the lack of formal education, he absorbed the teachings of the Orthodox Church and local mystics. These early experiences laid the foundation for the charisma and enigmatic presence that would later define him. As he grew, Rasputin left his village to wander through Russia, visiting monasteries and spiritual leaders, honing his reputation as a holy man capable of healing and prophecy. In the early 1900s, Rasputin arrived in St. Petersburg, a city of grandeur and intrigue. The imperial capital was far removed from his humble origins, yet he quickly became known among certain religious circles for his claimed healing abilities. His reputation reached the royal family, particularly Tsarina Alexandra, who was desperate to find any means to protect her son, Alexei, suffering from hemophilia. Rasputin's apparent ability to alleviate the boy's suffering granted him access to the intimate life of the Romanovs. As Rasputin grew closer to the imperial family, his influence became a matter of both hope and controversy. Many in court were suspicious of his presence, while others feared the consequences of opposing him. Rasputin's influence over the Tsarina extended beyond her personal trust. In matters of state, she increasingly sought his counsel, often in secrecy. This unusual dynamic created tension within the palace, as ministers and courtiers worried about the unseen hand guiding the empire. His proximity to the royal family also allowed him to protect his own position and navigate the dangerous waters of court politics. The line between spiritual advisor and political influencer blurred, and whispers of Rasputin's power reached the streets of St. Petersburg and beyond. Outside the palace, Rasputin's presence was a subject of fascination and fear. Newspapers printed stories of his alleged debauchery, mystical powers, and manipulative tendencies. Tales of wild parties, sexual misconduct, and hypnotic influence circulated widely, creating a public perception that often exaggerated the truth. Despite the scandals, Rasputin remained a figure of intrigue. His ability to survive attempts on his reputation and maintain access to the royal family only heightened the mystery surrounding him. The Russian public viewed him with a mixture of awe, suspicion, and anger, reflecting broader anxieties about the monarchy and the social inequalities of the time. With the outbreak of World War I, Rasputin's influence took on a more political dimension. Tsarina Alexandra increasingly relied on his advice regarding appointments and state decisions, especially while Tsar Nicholas II was at the front with the army. His role, while informal, impacted military and administrative choices, causing resentment among politicians and generals. Rasputin's presence became a symbol of the monarchy's vulnerability and the internal disarray of the empire during wartime. The growing perception that a single man, without title or office, could shape national policy fueled conspiracy and fear, setting the stage for his eventual downfall. By 1916, several groups of nobles and political figures conspired to remove Rasputin. These plots were driven by fear, frustration, and the desire to protect the monarchy from what they saw as corruption and manipulation. Despite multiple assassination attempts, Rasputin survived more than once, reinforcing the image of a man protected by some mystical force. Each failure only deepened the aura of invincibility surrounding him, making his eventual death even more dramatic in the public imagination. On the night of December 29, 1916, Rasputin was lured to Prince Yusupov's mansion under the pretense of a social visit. There, conspirators poisoned him, shot him, and ultimately drowned him, according to accounts. The details of his death, violent and prolonged, added to the legend that had grown around him. Stories claimed he had resisted death in ways that seemed impossible, solidifying his place in Russian folklore as a figure both feared and admired. The manner of his death became a symbol of the dying imperial order, foreshadowing the upheaval that would soon engulf Russia. Rasputin's story did not end with his death. He became a symbol of mysticism, scandal, and the vulnerabilities of the Russian monarchy. Books, films, and countless retellings ensured that his name would remain in the public consciousness long after the fall of the Romanovs. His life reflects the complexities of power, the seduction of influence, and the ways in which fear and fascination can intertwine in the shaping of history. Rasputin remains a lens through which we can view the final years of Imperial Russia. Was Rasputin a saint, a sinner, or merely a man swept along by the currents of his era? His story defies easy categorization. In the end, he is remembered as a man whose life and death encapsulate the mysteries, contradictions, and tragedies of the Russian Empire. Rasputin's legacy endures, a testament to the blurred line between myth and history, reminding us that some figures are larger than life, not just because of their deeds, but because of the legends they inspire. Rasputin's shadow still lingers in history. If you want to uncover more stories like this, make sure to subscribe and join us on this journey.